What's up, everybody? Brett Okamoto from ESPN, and look who I got with me today. It is lightweight slash welterweight slash 165 pounder Kevin Lee, a veteran of the MMA game who I got to say, man, like when I was preparing for this interview, as I prepare for all my interviews, I go back and look at, the information and sort of the stuff that's come out over the last 6 months. There is not much on you, man. Like you have not
Yeah.
fought, obviously, since March. There hasn't been a
Nope.
lot of news written about you. And even your social medias have been pretty dark, with the exception of announcing that you had a son, and then I think wishing everybody happy holidays. Basically, you have been off the grid. So, I guess to start off this interview, why were you off the grid so much? And tell me about, I guess, what you were doing last year.
I feel like sometimes you kind of gotta take a step back in order to push it forward, right? I feel like the less that I put out there would almost make what I do next even bigger. And then once I really do get back out there, which I plan on this year, posting a lot more, like you said, social media and making more of these headlines, it'll almost like remind people like, oh yeah, he's still there. I feel like I kind of wanted to take a step back to see who was really in my corner, right? To see who really like either wrote me off as soon as they I was out of their limelight. They either wrote me off or they just moved on to the next big thing. Well, then now I know where I'll fit in the next time that I'll blow back up. So yeah, I feel like it's long overdue, but it's about time for me to shine a little bit. I've had a lot of healing that I had to do over this last year, but now I'm fully healed up. I got my son. The pregnancy is over, all of that stuff, and I'm ready to get back to work. I'm ready to make it happen.
Congratulations on your son, by the way. How's that been?
Appreciate that, man. It's a blessing. It's a blessing. It's a different level of motivation that you can't explain to somebody else. And there's so many things that people say like, "Oh, once you have a kid, this will change, that'll change." That is so true, and it's hard for me to really. I, I see why people said they can't explain it because it's not explainable. Like now, I don't give a damn about myself. Like I really don't. Like I'm gonna go out there and I'm gonna fight my ass off for this kid now. Like it's totally different. So it's a blessing. Every day is getting better and better and better.
Yeah, man, it's broken up into two groups of people who have had kids and who haven't had kids. And like
Yeah.
I was the same as you. My son's 2.5. And before you have kids, like, yes, you understand and you're hearing it and you're like, I believe that everything they're saying is true, but you don't know what it feels like. You just
Right.
don't know what it feels like. You can believe them and say, I'm sure you're right, and I'll experience that someday, but you have no idea what they're talking about until it actually
Yep.
happens. At least that was my experience.
And then now it's like this is about to it's so crazy. It's just a different level of motivation, and I look at certain guys even in the sport and see, like you said, they took that step from the person that had no kids to okay, now I got kids. And it's a different level that you're able to tap into. So I'm kind of excited about it all around the board.
So from a professional standpoint, though, like what did you it's been a weird kind of thing, right? You were released from the UFC. For people that don't remember, you were released by the UFC. You weren't real happy about it. That was not one of those releases where you were like, hey, get me out of here. Like that was one where they essentially cut you.
Yeah.
You ended up going to Eagle FC, fought one time in March, and then are you still technically signed with Eagle FC, or because of obviously the things that are going on in the world, they can't hold fights right now, or they're not holding
Yeah.
fights in the United States? So what is the situation with your contract with Eagle FC?
Yeah, I think it's like you said, like they there's so much going on in the world, they're not able to throw fights on. But before we even made the contract, this is why I said they gave me such a great contract in the first place. Technically, I'm signed with them, but I can go to different promotions too. I can go, I can shop around. I'm basically a free agent right now, but I have that backup of having that contract. But they gave me such a good contract because I can move around, I can bounce around, and that's what we're looking to do right now. Um, it's you're Some of these things are so unpredictable, right? Who would predict that the world would be in the place that it's in from last year? So now that it's in this space, we can they gave me enough freedom and flexibility that you wouldn't get with other contracts.
Okay. And so you say you're essentially a free agent and you're looking around at other options. So I want to get to those
Yep.
options. But I think before we talk about the options of where you're going, we have to talk about who's representing you in that, because
Yeah.
another piece of information that we do have on you is that you just signed with Dominance MMA, which is Ali Abdelaziz. You were
Yes.
previously with Markel Martin. Markel
Right.
Martin was at Creative Artist Agency, CAA, um,
Yeah.
which he left CAA, but he was still representing you at that time, right? What what were the conversations like with you and Markel, and then ultimately, what was he sort of negotiating for you, and then why the switch in management?
So here's the thing. Basically, CAA dissolved their MMA promotion or their MMA department, right? They dissolved all of the fighters, not just me and Markel, but pretty much everybody got cut from this big Hollywood agency, right? They decided they didn't want nothing to do with MMA anymore. Why that is, I don't know. Um, so once that happened, I'm gonna obviously stick loyalty by my guy. I'm gonna stick with Markel, and we're gonna make things happen. But at the end of the day, this is about relationships that you have with people, and it's about building teams and where you can really highlight everything in your career, right? So um, I got his blessing. Me and him had conversations. I got his blessing to move over and move with Ali, and it's for a number of reasons, right? Uh, I've accepted Islam, right? I've converted over to Islam, and really accepting my place in life as a Muslim. And just there and alone kind of brought me into the brotherhood of speaking with more Muslims and me forming like more of a bond with these people. And Ali is somebody I've known for years and years. We trained together. We got deep respect for each other, and he's got a lot of relationships in MMA. So it made sense, and the partnership just worked out. And I got Markel's blessing to move over, and me and Markel will still speak. And there's not really any bad blood in it, but I'm looking toward the future. You know, I got a son now. I got to make things happen. I got money that's on the table, and I feel like I can fight more frequently, and I can really ramp up my career by moving on.
When did you inform Markel that you were going to make this move?
About a month ago, almost. It's almost been a month.
Okay.
I've
And
been
that,
in negotiation. Go ahead. Go ahead.
well, I want you to finish your thought. I was just going to say, at that time, when you made the decision to change management, what was Markel negotiating for you? What were like the conversations like? Were they real active? Like, what was going on in your career, I guess, when you decided to make the change?
So Eagles been stagnant, right? We,
Mhm.
we we know that they aren't throwing any shows, especially here in the U.S. They haven't been throwing a show since last May. It's almost been a year. So we were in negotiations with PFL to get something done with them. Um, but the conversations just weren't going right. You know, they weren't being had right. Why that is and on what end, I'm not necessarily sure. Right, I'm the fighter. Right, I'm on the outside of it, so it's hard for me to know when and where or what's going on really. Um, but all these things are all happening at the same time, and Ali comes by and he helped me get the Eagle deal right with Ali. That's the one that we went to negotiate the Eagle deal, and for me to negotiate my way out of this Eagle deal or let me go where somewhere else. I was speaking with Ali, and we just continued those conversations on until he ends up becoming my manager.
Yeah. I guess at this point in your career,
Mhm.
what are you looking for out of a manager? Because I'm just going to address, I think, the reality that I think a lot of people know.
Mhm.
Markel has butted heads a lot with the promotion, the UFC,
Yeah.
uh, mostly over Francis Ngannou. But
Yeah.
he also was at CAA. That's, obviously we know the dichotomy there. CAA and WME owns the UFC.
Mhm.
Ali, whether for right or wrong, and I think some people aren't aware of some of the arguments that he gets in with the UFC, but he's looked at as having a very close relationship with promoters. Like he's
Yeah.
a pro promoter manager. He has positive relationships with managers. Like, what, as a fighter, how are you making these decisions, man? Because I think people, fans are curious about that, because you want to pick a manager that's going to represent you the most. There's positives and negatives to all of it. Like, what's
Yeah.
going through your head when you're trying to decide what's best for me?
Yeah, when you say it like that, right? I've heard a lot of people say that and kind of put down Ali for that, like, oh, he's got in with these promotions, and oh, he's so close with these promotions. That's what you're paying a manager for. You're paying a manager for his relationships, right? He's representing you. He's representing me to these people that I'm not necessarily gonna speak to, right? I do feel like I could probably manage myself even, and just speak to these promoters. And I always approach people with respect, right? And I always approach people in the right way. uh that's what you're paying your manager to do. And you said it for me. Markel has kind of been butting heads with a lot of the top people, and that's exactly what I don't want to have happen, because now it's reflecting bad on me. um and that's not to say that he doesn't know how to do his job, right? That's not to say that he's doing his job wrong. But at a certain point of your career, you got to make the switch over, right? If this was 3 years ago, it would look a little different. Now I'm on the outs of the UFC. Pretty much anybody in the promotion knows I got cut because of the Francis Ngannou situation. And that all those things kind of add up to changes being made. So what I'm looking for out of a manager is his relationships, and I feel like that's what any fighter should look for. You should look for those relationships. I can't spend my time building up these relationships and having these conversations. This sport is way too hard to do. It takes too much time and too many hours in a day for me to do that. And especially at my age now, I've got a few more years left of me really pursuing this thing, that I need to give it my full and undivided attention. It's going to be for these next 3 years is just on the fighting. So I need to know that my manager is out there representing me in the best light.
Yeah, I mean, it's a dilemma, and I do think that it varies depending on, like you said, maybe where you're at in your career, who you are, what you're looking for. And I don't, again, I think a lot of people are unaware of some of the arguments that Ali has with different various promotions, whether
Sure.
it's the PFL, the UFC, that he is arguing on behalf of his clients. And I think some people are unaware that Markel has had good conversations with different promotions as well. It's not all,
Sure.
oh, Markel is fighting them all the time and Ali is saying yes to them all the time, but it's a different way of doing business, Um, so it's an interesting one. So you end up going with Ali then. So what is the latest now? How did that change the conversations that were going on with PFL?
It changed him a lot. He's got deeper relationships with them, right? And I think even more, it showed that I'm serious about this next phase of my career. And I think when they look at it, they can see, okay, he's making the right changes, right? I've moved down here to Florida. I've changed my team. I've been with Kill Cliff FC this entire last year. And I feel like now I really have the right team behind me as far as training wise. And now I've got the right team behind me as far as management wise. So now I just need the right team as far as promotion. And then we all set to go. We could take this thing to another level. So I think by me doing that showed that I was willing to kind of put my ego on the back burner and say, okay, yeah, I could use some help in this one area. So now when I go into this next contract, you see where I'm at. You see what I'm doing. People know that I can fight, right? The world knows that I can fight. I mean, I really have to thank the UFC a lot. They made me kind of a household name, especially in MMA. When we doing these negotiations and we going over the numbers, over 10 million people have watched me fight live, right? When you add up everything, 150 million people have seen me in one way or another. That it's been hundreds of thousands of dollars invested into my promotion and making me who I am. And I feel like I've done all that, right? You know what you're gonna get it when you get a Kevin Lee fight. You know what you're gonna get. You know you're gonna get it. You've never seen me in a boring fight. You've never seen me beat the up. You really never seen me knocked out. So now you're gonna see me have the right promotion behind me, have the right management behind me, and I feel like PFL knows that or whoever I work with knows that I can take that to the next level.
Okay, so it sounds like things are progressing pretty well with PFL. Was there any talk with the UFC going back? Is that something that can be repaired? Is that something that's a possibility, or do you think that that's behind you now?
That's been floated out there a few times, um, and I have thought about it, but I'm not putting no energy towards it. To be honest with you, uh, I feel like there's so many opportunities in this sport, um, and there's a big opportunity now with PFL. You know, they just signed Jake Paul. They're making a lot of waves in outside of the fighting realm. You know, outside of the bubble that UFC has created. There's a lot of opportunity outside of it, and I'm one of the most experienced guys. You know, you can't look at anybody who's unsigned from the UFC that has my record, has fought the people that I've fought, and has my age and my upside to me either. So I would almost be hurting my leverage if I was just to straight go back with the UFC right now. So it's something that I'm kind of interested, but it would have to be the right offer. It had to be the right fight. It had to be something other than just to say I'm a UFC fighter. I've been there and done that. That doesn't do that much for me, right?
Mm-hmm.
$1 million sounds a whole lot better.
Yeah.
So I'd rather get $1 million.
Well, you answered my question, and I assumed that you were looking at this as like joining the regular season roster. But of course, now they do have that Jake Paul super division where you're taking pay-per-view fights, but you're thinking of yourself as get in a regular season, fight frequently, and win $1 million in the season format.
Potentially, that's what I was thinking. Right, I've been in negotiations with him for about 3 weeks, and then out of nowhere they hit us with this Jake Paul thing yesterday. So it's still kind of fresh in my mind. Right, but if they're doing super fights now, what better way to do a fight than do a super fight with me? I mean, I don't know. I do think if Jake Paul is serious, right? If he's serious about fighting MMA, for one, I'm gonna give him respect, even if he just steps into the cage. It's totally different than the boxing arena. This thing is gonna be totally different. But if he wants real respect out of people who really understand fighting, he's gonna have to fight somebody like me. I mean, I'm in the prime of my career, a hell of a wrestler. I fought 6 different world champions, guys like Charles Oliveira, Tony Ferguson. The list could go on and on. You know, Michael Chiesa, Edson Barboza. I've already fought all these guys. So even if he was to make it the distance with me, or even if he was to make it past one bell, people can look at him and say, "Oh, okay, this guy could fight Leon Edwards one day."
Mm-hmm.
Like he would actually have potential. Right now, it's a freak show that he's putting on, and he's making money. But I'm in the business of making money too. If he wants to make it legitimate, then I think I'll be around.
If you do decide to go the tournament route, 170, I would imagine.
170, yeah, 170.
Did you really pay attention to the 170ers in this year at PFL?
I did. Yeah, I trained with a few of them too.
What do you think of the level of competition at PFL and the welterweights?
I think you got a few good guys, right? You do. Sado Busi is legit. He's a good kickboxer. I've trained with him before too. He would keep you on your toes, but none of the guys have anything that I haven't seen before, and I don't think any of them have the same level of intensity that I could bring to a fight. I think it's just levels. There's levels, and I think I've been at a different level than a lot of those guys, even though they have good skills. I give them that.
Man, it's really great to talk to you, man, and I'm looking forward to the official announcement of where you're going next. I think the last thing I would ask you is just like, what is your mood like going into this year? I'll say the reason why I'm asking that is because I feel like someone in your position could be a little bitter just about your career. Just from the standpoint of like, you've talked about it before. You fought great competition from a very early age. I think back to the staph infection around Tony, which was nobody's fault probably necessarily. It was just bad luck. I mean, you had a chance to fight for a UFC championship and you had staph. the Charles Oliveira fight, you said that you didn't want really in the first place. Then you
Yeah.
get cut, and now you feel like you're kind of dragged into this political thing, and then the Eagle FC comes along, you're happy there. That rug gets pulled out from under you right away. Like,
Yeah.
and I feel bad, man, because I feel like people watching this interview like, God, Brett's so negative. But I'm just like, I'm looking at your career, and I'm just like, I feel like maybe you haven't had a chance to live up to your potential yet, if that's a fair way to say it. I don't know. I mean, I
Yeah.
guess it's like, what is your mood like coming into this year? And like, I guess, what's your motivation? Are you trying to prove anything? Are you just trying to make money for your son? Like what's important to you, I guess, like if that long question makes sense.
Uh, I get you. I'm super. If I had to sum up everything in one word, I'm optimistic. I'm optimistic, and I'm excited. Like that's the mood is excitement. Like I feel it in the air. Like the last 2 years have been so, they just have, like, for all the reasons that you list, right? And it's just one thing after another thing after another thing. My knees, and then things just kind of add up. But I don't know. Since I had that kid, man, since I saw him, like, my mood just elevated right off the bat. It's been hard work, right? It's hard after kid, but it just elevated everything to the point where I'm optimistic about the future and what's to come. My brother is making big moves. He's signing big deals, and he's one of the biggest social media stars in the world right now. And he's getting bigger and bigger and bigger as the days go on. And I'm sitting and I'm looking at that, and this is all within the last few months. And I'm like, oh, all right, it's his time. Now it's gonna be my time next. My time is up. I just have to stay consistent and stay working at it. And it would be easy to get bitter, right? And I feel like I have stayed in that a little bit. And that's even part of my reason for kind of going dark, and staying away from everything, just so I don't spread the spread the negativity. Um, but now I'm just ready to step out of it. Like I just am. Like, my mood is excited. Like I want to get in there and get it done. Like I want to fight. Like I want to fight. You know, like you said, when I fought Charles Oliveira, I feel like I almost had to do it. Like, oh, okay, all right, I guess I'll go ahead and sure, I get it done. And even after that fight, if you remember the press conference I did afterwards, the first lady that asked me, I said I'm going to step away for a few years. I'm not going to fight for a few years. It's been 3 years now. I kind of I kind of did it to myself. I kind of said that I was gonna step
Yeah.
away, and then that's what happened. And now it's time to get back on it and get back on that horse, and I'm ready to do that. I'm ready for it.
Yeah.
I'm not forcing it. I didn't let it be forced. I'm ready for it. So yeah, I'm optimistic about how things are gonna go.
Well, I'm not just saying this, man. I'm genuinely looking forward to seeing you back on social media, but then also, of course, back in competition and some real fights. I think that there are a lot of interesting fights out there for you. And like you mentioned earlier, man, you're still very much in your prime. You've had a long career. We're talking
Yeah,
about a lot of different things that have happened to you over the course of your career, but you still have a lot to give to
yeah.
it if you want to. So thanks for the time, man, and appreciate the conversation. And we'll look forward to what's next.
Appreciate you, Brett. Appreciate you, bro. It's always good talking to you too.
Thank you for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN Plus.